for general viewing.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Today being the 14th day of June 2024, as well as the 8th of Dhul Hijjah 1445 in the Islamic calendar. I hope you are having a wonderful moment. A very good morning to you and welcome to Horizon TV. This is the Muslim Insight. Do you know what is going on around the Muslim community? Join me in the second segment, whereby we are going to have a review on Friday Bulletin. But before that, let's have the headlines.
In Mombasa County, we are opening more rehab centers than schools, than colleges.
War on Muguka. Muslim leaders in the country call on government to consider the welfare of the future generations and ban Muguka.
There's something that I can do, you cannot do. There's something that you can do, no one else can do. Everyone is responsible.
Israel-Gaza war. Israel called out for its war crimes in Gaza as Muslims urge to give a voice to the oppressed in Gaza.
The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2734.
Gaza ceasefire. UN Security Council adopts resolution calling for immediate, full and complete Gaza ceasefire. Thank you so much for keeping it at Horizon TV. My sign language interpreter is Mariam Jamaluddin. Now on to our top story is that the Muslim leaders in the country have joined hands to support the ongoing war on Muguka and Mira. The leaders who spoke at Jamia Mosque, Nairobi during the workshop on Muguka called on the government to consider the welfare of future generations and categorize Muguka as a substance with significant health and social risks. The Muslim leaders, led by Changamwe Member of Parliament Omar Mwinyi, said Muguka has considerable negative outcomes such as psychological effects on users, depression, insomnia, low sperm count and marriage breakdowns.
When you look at Muguka, it really interferes with mental health disorders. When people are already on treatment and they take the Muguka, they can never be treated. So they are always sick, they'll never get better. So what you find is you have a client who never gets better because every time they go, they take Muguka. If they are having schizophrenia, it only gets worse. If they have bipolar, it only gets worse. So what happens is we are spending a lot of money just treating ailments that can be well managed just because of Muguka.
The leaders further expressed their support for the action taken by the county governments of Mombasa, Kilifi, Taita Taveta, Lamu and Kwale to ban and restrict the consumption of the addictive stimulants so as to protect the health and social welfare of their people.
The Muslim leadership is gravely concerned about the double standard approach exhibited by the government towards the consumption of Muguka. It is clearly evident that the government is more concerned with the economic benefits derived by farmers in the Muguka producing areas while ignoring the adverse health and social effects suffered by consumers in other parts of the country.
During the workshop held at Jamia Multipurpose Hall, former Deputy Chief Qadi Sheikh Rashid Omar, in his thesis on the drug, revealed the adverse effect Muguka has on the user, their families and society at large.
If you can look in Mombasa County, we are opening more rehab centers than schools, than colleges, you see. So that shows you that we have a very big problem in our community. And that is why we have every reason to make sure that we unite against these products.
Mombasa women representative Zamzam Ahmed has been in the forefront rallying for the bill that seeks to amend the Crops Act 2013 to outlaw miraa and muguka.
Muguka is not in the constitution, miraa is there. And so when we are coming out with this amendment to remove it from cash crop, definitely we'll be dealing away with muguka also. Otherwise, muguka is very different from miraa. Even the effects, they're very different. But because they keep on insisting that it is also protected, what we know is protected is miraa. And so that is why we are coming with this amendment to remove miraa. When we deal away with miraa, definitely muguka will be out.
The muguka and miraa debate has moved beyond the coastal counties, with leaders from northern Kenya now joining in and throwing their weight behind their coastal counterparts. Still on matters of miraa and muguka is that political leaders in the coastal region have raised alarm over the growing use of muguka among local youth, prompting calls for an independent investigations into its adverse effects. The proposal, backed by leaders from Mombasa and Embu counties, seeks to shed light on the health implications of this stimulant.
Fresh muguka and miraa on average contain significant levels of cathinone and cathine that are very high chemicals that scientific data has pointed at effects that impair normal body functions.
What we see in miraa and muguka is the cathinone and the cathine that affect the chewers psychologically. And when I speak of affecting them psychologically, most of them go through depression, psychosis, their insomnia, loss of appetite, slow in reaction and motivation, anorexia, where we see reduces semen volume production, and low sperm motility. That means that even the men are affected in their marriages.
In an exclusive interview with Horizon TV, Changamwe constituency Member of Parliament Shimbwa Omar Mwinyi expressed grave concern over the widespread use of muguka, particularly among the youth population. Both miraa and muguka have become the subject of back and forth between coastal counties and the miraa and muguka growing counties of Meru and Embu.
It's only fortunate that this debate has started at the coast, but otherwise the effect of muguka is felt countrywide. It has a lot of negative impact on the youth, both development-wise and health-wise. Kenya is supposed to be a developing country, and we need the input of almost everybody in the country to make it so. So if we do not take responsibilities in our hands by trying to see how best we can protect our youth from these harmful effects of the drugs, especially muguka now at the moment, then we stand to lose out among the countries of the world.
Coastal leaders, led by Mombasa Women Representative Honorable Zamzam Ahmed, has called on President William Ruto to commission experts to thoroughly examine the harmful effects of these plants.
And this is a test to the president. If he can increase taxes, na anakuwa criticized by everyone in Kenya, but he goes ahead and does it, tunamwambia he has to ban muguka and miraa in this country. The side effects ziko nyingi. He's a man that doesn't care about criticism, because ukiangalia finance bill vile watu wanazungumza na yeye amepush, ametoa sababu, ana convince watu. He can as well convince the miraa farmers that this thing, scientifically proven, it has side effects to the health of our people. Na atoe kabisa.
In order to combat the consumption of miraa and muguka, Kwale County, led by Governor Fatuma Achani, has imposed higher entry fees for transporters ferrying muguka, aiming to limit its availability within the region.
Moving on to other stories is that during the Friday sermon at Jamia Mosque, Nairobi on Friday, Parkland's Mosque Imam Sheikh Abdul Rahman Isaac called out Israel for its war crimes in Gaza. The Imam said it was time for Muslims to use social media to tell the Palestinians stories and raise awareness on their plight under Israeli occupation.
In his Jummah khutbah address to Muslim worshippers at Jamia Mosque, Nairobi last Friday, Sheikh Abdul Rahman Ishaq, who described Israel's war on Gaza as a humanitarian crisis, noted that social media has been one of the strongest tools used by netizens to shed light on the various brutalities of the Israeli army in Palestine and to influence public opinion.
Every positive that is happening for the cause of Palestinians is because of what the world has done on social media. It forces the algorithm to make Gaza's genocide trend. It forces governments to make decisions. This is what your post could do. If you have social media accounts, and 99.9% of us do have social media accounts, make it your status, post on Facebook, tweet on Twitter, on X, whatever it is, you have to do something for them.
Calling upon all Kenyan Muslims, Sheikh Abdul Rahman urged continuous special prayers for the suffering Palestinian people, noting that Palestinians have been victims of Israeli occupation for decades.
There's something that I can do, you cannot do. There's something that you can do, no one else can do. Everyone is responsible. And I fear that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will question us for what we have done for a genocide that is happening. You can't sugarcoat this statement. It is indeed a genocide.
Sheikh Abdul Rahman urged Muslims to speak up against what he called Israeli apartheid system and the country's undignified treatment of human beings, indicating that Palestinians have suffered for more than 73 years in the hands of Israel.
Imaginary images of beheaded Israeli children caused an entire government to launch a genocidal war against Palestinians. Whereas real-time images of beheaded Palestinian children did not force the entire world to immediately bring the war to a halt. Allahu Akbar. The grotesque, grim, heart-wrenching images that are coming out from Rafah, just when you thought that this is the worst that the apartheid regime could do. And all of a sudden, they come up with ways that are even more worse.
Israel's war on Gaza has killed more than 37,000 Palestinians, mostly women and children, since October 7th. The war in Gaza has left more than 2.4 million of Gaza inhabitants displaced. On Monday, the UN Security Council adopted a resolution aimed at reaching a comprehensive ceasefire deal in 3 phases to end the war in Gaza. 8 months into the Israeli war, vast tracts of Gaza lay in ruins amid a crippling blockade of food, clean water, and medicine. Israel stands accused of genocide at the International Court of Justice, whose latest ruling ordered Tel Aviv to immediately halt its operations in the southern city of Rafah, where over 1 million Palestinians have sought refuge from the war before it was invaded on May 6th. Salma Salim, The Muslim Insight.
The UN Security Council has adopted a drafted resolution calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. The resolution was adopted by a large majority with 14 votes in favor, with Russia abstaining. The resolution is calling for Hamas to agree to a 3-phase hostage for ceasefire proposal. Israeli army has killed more than 37,000 Palestinians in Gaza, most of them women and children, and over 80,000 others injured.
The result of the voting is as follows: 14 votes in favor, 0 votes against, 1 abstention. The draft resolution has been adopted as Resolution 2734.
The motion envisages a 3-phase approach to ensure a lasting and comprehensive end to the war in Gaza. Phase 1 includes an immediate, full and complete ceasefire with the release of hostages including women, the elderly and the wounded, the return of the remains of some hostages who have been killed, and the exchange of Palestinian prisoners. It calls for the withdrawal of Israeli forces from populated areas in Gaza, the return of Palestinians to their homes throughout the enclave, including the north, as well as the safe and effective distribution of humanitarian assistance at scale. Phase 2 will see a permanent end to hostilities in exchange for the release of all other hostages still in Gaza and a full withdrawal of Israeli forces from Gaza. In Phase 3, a major multi-year reconstruction plan for Gaza will begin, and the remains of any deceased hostages still in the Strip will be returned to Israel. On Saturday, Israeli army killed over 270 Palestinians with over 700 others injured in a bombardment of the Nuseirat refugee camp. More than 37,100 Palestinians have since been killed in Gaza, most of them women and children, and nearly 84,700 others injured. Shadia Ramadan for Muslim Insights.
Back to Kenya is that in a major move to tackle the backlog and expedite the issuance of national ID cards, the National ID Card Agency has implemented a round-the-clock strategy. Immigration and Citizenship Services Principal Secretary Julius Bitok announced that the government has procured a new high-capacity printer to enhance the operations of the National Registration Bureau. And fast-track new requests. This initiative aims to address the delay caused by a court injunction on the Maisha card last year. Since the lifting of the injunction in February, over 600,000 new IDs have been printed. The new printer is a game changer, enabling the Bureau to meet the rising demand for both new and duplicate IDs. The current printer can produce only 700 IDs daily, while the demand has surged to around 8,000 new IDs and a similar number of duplicates per day. To ensure that all Kenyans, including those in remote counties, receive their IDs promptly, the new strategy will process applications within 21 days. Elsewhere, the Muslims in Nyeri town have something to smile about. This is after helping Hand for Relief and Development established a vocational training center at Al-Falah Islamic Center. The center will offer courses on baking, henna, computers, packages. Al-Falah Islamic Center was previously a madrasa facility in operation for more than 40 years, but now it has been converted into a vocational training center. Yahya Mahinda with more of the details from Nyeri County.
Al-Falah Islamic Center in Nyeri Town is set to commence the first vocation training facility run by Muslims in the entire Mount Kenya region. The center will be open to girls from all religious backgrounds, offering studies like baking, henna, and computer courses.
We want to empower the lady in the house. And we believe that if the lady is skillful, that family will be successful. And we have other programs. We do water sanitation. We do OSP, sponsor of orphan children. And inshallah, we'll convince them again to bring some of these projects in this country.
Speaking at the same function, Helping Hand Program Manager revealed that similar projects were being replicated in other East African countries.
Kuna centers kama hizi Kenya, Tanzania na Somalia. Na nimeona na macho yangu transformation ya community from ile skill unapata.
According to Nyeri County Assistant Commissioner, the center had introduced a unique henna course which was not available in other learning institutions in the region.
Na skills ambazo mmeleta, moja nimeona ni henna, ambayo sidhani kuna mtu mwingine ambaye ana offer, so it's something ambayo ni unique.
Local residents led by Area Chief Hadija Warimi Juma expressed joy and anticipation that this vocation training center would go a long way in solving the perennial narcotics problem in Mount Kenya region.
I believe strongly and I'm happy that our children are going to benefit from this, and this one will derail them, the program will derail them from drug abuse early marriages, child prostitution. So we are happy, and I'm happy as a mother that after this, these young people will have skills that they can use outside there to fend for themselves.
Twashukuru sana mmetuletea hii center hapa Nyeri. Itatusaidia na itasaidia wasichana wengi ambao walikuwa idle nyumbani. Itatusaidia na skills na kazi kwa sasa.
The opening of this center is important in resolving problems prevalent in Nyeri County, more so drug abuse, while simultaneously equipping local youth with life skills not offered in other TVET centers in the region, especially through their HINA courses. Yahya Mahinda reporting from Al Falah Islamic Center in Nyeri Town for Muslim Insight.
Now in the northern region, hundreds of farmers in Garissa County have staged a peaceful demonstrations seeking urgent intervention from both county and national government. Led by the Garissa Farmers Network Chairman Abdirahim Farah, the farmers are calling for sustainable solutions to the perennial flood menace caused by the River Tana. The flooding worsened by last year's El Nino and this year's heavy May rains has submerged farms, leading to losses amounting to millions of shillings.
Garissa Farmers Network Chairman Abdirahim Farah emphasized the need of long-term measures to prevent floods, proposing the construction of mega dams, drilling of canals from River Tana, and build strong walls along the river to manage excess water.
What we are advocating for is our governments, both the national and the county, to liaise with us on the ground so that we can plan together and we can give them what we can put in and they can give us what they can put in so that life becomes normal. The river is there to flow and it is to our benefit. When it comes with unwanted amounts of water, we must have a way of storing that water, using that water instead of them distracting us.
The farmers who have not been able to harvest since October last year are also demanding compensation for their losses.
The loss is big. The other day when we were with the ministry, they estimated 2.2 billion Kenya shillings to have been the loss that we incurred. And governments can have an input into that. You cannot dream. It is not a strange thinking. We have seen how the river have gone, and it's not science, rocket science, to know that all the farms have been destroyed.
Abdullahi Abdi, member of Garissa Farmers Network, explained that not only were their crops destroyed, but essential farming equipment was also swept away.
Wakulima ambao chakula yao, mapata yao ni kutoka ukulima na ambao wanategemea hiyo ukulima kwa chakula ya nyumbani, kwa masomo ya watoto na kwa mahitaji yote ya kifedha, hawajapata mapato kutoka shamba mwezi 8.
As the government remains silent, these farmers continue to struggle with the aftermath of the floods. The soil erosion and damage have left their farms unfit for planting, requiring significant investment to restore. They hope that their voices will be heard and effective action will be taken to secure their livelihoods against future floods.
Na hatuwezi tukarudi mashamba mpaka tupate mashini. Utarudi shamba huna mashini, utaweka vipi maji? Mpaka tupewe mashini ya kupampa ile maji. Mashini zote zimeenda. Kwa hivyo tunaomba serikali kuu na ya county waungane vilivyo. Kama hawataungana, sisi tuko hapa kila siku.
Reporting from Muslim Insight, my name is Vincent Okeke.
Last but not least on matters of humanitarian aid is that Direct Aid Kenya distributed essential food and non-food items to 800 families grappling with the aftermath of the floods in Mandera County. The distribution initiative aimed to alleviate the suffering of the most vulnerable communities grappling with the aftermath of the natural disaster. With a steadfast commitment to humanitarian aid, Direct Aid Kenya mobilized resources to alleviate the plight of those hardest hit by the floods in Mandera and Elwak areas.
In the midst of devastation caused by the relentless floods in Mandera County, Direct Aid Kenya has stepped up to extend a lifeline to the distressed communities who are struggling to put a meal on the table as a result of the floods.
Alhamdulillah, tunashukuru Mungu na wale wasaidizi leo mtusaidia wale tambuni. Tumeombea Mungu kutoka mpaka akara mpaka misho. Alhamdulillah, tunashukuru Mungu. Leo tumeshiba, tumepata chakula kutosha. Asante sana kwa wale wametupatia wale Waislamu wote. Na tumebariki ni Mungu abariki Waislamu wote na Mungu abariki wakambuni wametupatia chakula.
Speaking during the distribution process, Mohamed Maalim, a representative from Direct Aid Kenya, emphasized the ongoing commitment to stand in solidarity with the impacted communities throughout the time of need.
Kuna mchele ya 25 kg, kuna sukari, kuna ngano, kuna maragwe.
The aid packages include fortified flour to address malnutrition concerns, mosquito nets to combat the risk of vector-borne diseases, among other items that have brought a ray of hope to the flooded-affected residents. For many, the assistance provided by Direct Aid Kenya served as a lifeline amid the despair and uncertainty brought about by the floods.
Watu na sisi wote ni watu wameathirika sana kwa ajali ya floods. Sasa tunashukuru wenzetu wametuletea chakula nzuri.
The floods impacted more than 15 counties in the country, killing over 280 people and displacing over 280,000 individuals. The flood victims are facing not only the challenges of displacement and loss of livelihood, but also heightened health risks due to unsanitary conditions and limited access to health care.
As in Mandera County, we like to appreciate Direct Aid for these timely interventions and will always work closely with them and any other non-actors that is coming here to complement.
Elsewhere, 7 Kenyans who dream of going for Hajj for years, Hajj had remained a distant dream. Thanks to the generosity of Direct Aid Kenya, the 7 individuals from different walks of life have been sponsored to go for Hajj. Under the guidance of Direct Aid Kenya, the 7 pilgrims underwent preparation for their journey, including spiritual guidance, logistical support, and necessary documentation. Direct Aid International is a non-profit organization dedicated to bringing a sense of normalcy to crisis situations. Reporting for Muslim Insight, my name is Mariam Musa.
Now that report from Maria Musa brings us to the end of our first part of the Muslim Insight. Join me in the second part as we have the Friday Bulletin review.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Enyi mlioamini, munapoitwa kuhudhuria swala ya Ijumaa, fanyeni haraka kuikimbilia, muache biashara zenu, hilo ni bora ikiwa mwelewa.
Isikilizeni kwa umakinifu khutba ya Ijumaa
ili uzidi kujenga imani yako na kupata faida nyingi ya siku hii.
Coming to you every Friday from Jamia Mosque, Nairobi.
Live on Horizon TV.
Kuna faida gani twapata tukimjua Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam,
nabii mwenye ushawishi mkubwa duniani?
Tukizikwa tukitiwa kaburini, tutaulizwa haya maswali matatu: man rabbuk, ma dinuk, man nabiyuk.
Sheikh Jamaluddin anakupa simulizi.
Huwezi kumpenda mtu usiyemjua
na kutambua sunna zake,
lakini ukimjua na ukimtambua Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mapenzi yako yatazidi.
Ufahamu Rasulullah, familia na maswahaba wake. Tazama sira ya Mtume kila Jumatatu saa 1 jioni kwenye Horizon TV. Kitabu chenye uongofu kilichoteremshwa kwa mpangilio maalum.
Sura ikiitwa Madania inamaanisha iliteremshwa Mtume sallallahu alaihi wasallam alipokuwa kwa Madina.
Kila sura imepewa jina rasmi na sababu zake za kimsingi.
Inaitwa Suratun Nisa'il Kubra, sura ya wanawake kubwa.
Fahamu sababu za kuteremshwa Qur'an na matukio ya kipekee katika utaratibu huu.
Asema Mwenyezi Mungu wa Nuha, nakumbukeni kisa cha Nuh, tumpomlingania kabla, tukamjibu yale mambo aliyoyaomba, tukawa ni wenye kumwokoa yeye na ahli yake.
Ungana na Profesa Muhammad Salim Badamana katika malengo ya Qur'an kila siku ya Jumapili saa 11 kamili jioni katika Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Welcome back and thank you so much for staying here with us at Horizon TV. This is the Muslim Insight and this is the second segment. We're going to have a Friday Bulletin review, like I said before I went for a short break. And to do that or to discuss that, the Friday Bulletin, I am joined by Sheikh Musa Mwale. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Welcome to Horizon TV.
Thank you very much.
I know it's not your first time, but let me just welcome you. It's been a while.
Thank you very much.
Okay, today we are having a Friday Bulletin review. And according to the front page of the Friday Bulletin, you can see that Muslim leaders raise concern over Muguka effects. What do you have to say on matters of Muguka and the Muslim leaders or Muslim community?
Thank you very much, and I want to applaud the Friday Bulletin and especially, of course, Jamia Mosque for hosting the Muslim leadership that talked about the effect of Muguka a couple of days ago. Well, Muguka, first and foremost, we have to agree it's a drug. And basically, what does Islam say about consumption of drugs, especially harmful drugs, not the medicine that we use, but drugs that affect the system? It's outrightly haram. And therefore, there should be no excuse for any Muslim to consume an outlawed substance, despite, of course, it having other effects on the bodies, like the mental health of someone, reproductive system, psychological, economy, family. But it's outrightly haram. When we we break down into the effect of Muguka, I can say it is even worse than marijuana. Is it marijuana or bangi? It's worse than bangi. It's worse than any other drug.
It's been a debate back and forth.
Yes.
Maybe we can get what's the difference between Muguka and Mira?
I may not want to go into that scientific research, but I know Muguka is fast. The effect is very fast. It's cheap, and therefore it's easily accessible. I'm told they buy as cheap as 20 shillings or thereabout 30 shillings.
Okay.
You cannot get Mira, I'm sure, at that. I heard of Mira, it was going into some thousands, 2,000, 3,000 shillings. So basically we can say that the consumption of Mira would be exclusively for among the people who can afford. But Muguka has gone all the way to the school-going children, because you give them 20 shillings instead of going to buy mandazi, then they would go for muguka. So it's very cheap and it's accessible. It's in everywhere in our neighborhoods.
Okay.
Yes.
Muguka, sorry, has effect. Its effect cuts across every individual,
Yes.
be it a Muslim, be it a non-Muslim. But on page 5, you can see that muguka as a drug abuse in the Muslim community. Maybe what's the effect?
One, it has caused a lot of, a bigger impact on families. One is that people who are consuming mogoka, whether they are people within the family setup, whether they are children. Of course, younger people will not, they don't go to school, it affects their education. They don't, people who have come of age don't engage in gainful employment. They don't work. If they work, once they start consuming mogoka, then they're laid off because they don't report on time. Their productivity goes down, and therefore they are sacked. When they get sacked, they now go on chewing muguka because it's very cheap, you know. And the muguka chewers are they are so communal that if you don't have money, they will still sponsor you. So you will still eat muguka whether with or without money. So someone spends 10 hours sitting chewing muguka, and then they come back in the wee hours of the morning, sleep the entire day, wake up at 4, and go to the dens of muguka and continue chewing. So they don't engage in gainful employment. Therefore, that affects the economy of the family. They are affected, they don't get sleep, that they have to get other, because this is a stimulant, they have to get other depressants, you know, so you consume muguka alongside others, you know, bangi, you know, alcohol, other drugs. Very fed up kind of drugs. We are even told they even use mosquito coil. Some even use, very funny things. So once they do that, of course, they suffer from many other things. Mental health. We know quite a number of people who are in mental institutions because of chewing mogoka. So it is an all-round negative impact on a human person.
Okay.
Whether it's your mental health, your physical health, the family, it affects the reproductive system in that husbands who are consuming it have problems performing their matrimonial rights or giving the matrimonial rights to their spouses. And this causes, of course, discord in marriages and leads to divorce, apart from, of course, the normal abuse, domestic abuse towards family members, towards their spouses, towards their children. They are never there if there is men to parent their children. If it's women, they are also never there to parent their kids. So basically, we are destroying a generation. Consumption of muguka destroys a generation. So for those, of course, we have had counter arguments that, of course, there are other drugs. Yes, but those other drugs are outrightly outlawed, and therefore they are not freely sold, openly sold. But muguka is a drug, but it's not outrightly outlawed. And also, why would you want to force, like those people who grow this as a cash crop? And I ask myself, why can't they consume it themselves? The easiest way to create a market is to start by consuming what you produce.
Yeah.
So they shouldn't force it down on people who are not willing, especially people at the coast who have said, we don't want mogoka. Let people in the Mount Kenya region, because they have the numbers to vote, let them use those numbers to consume their own product. They don't have to force it down the throat of any other group that is not willing.
Okay. Let's talk about the finance bill.
Yes.
Which was passed yesterday. And talk about finance bill and muguka. Woman representative, Mombasa County, Honorable Zamzam, called for the government to outlaw the use of muguka.
Yes.
What do you have to say about that? Because you can see that it's the coastal region, mostly the coastal region leaders are the ones who are fighting.
Yeah, one, of course, the government, because of the, I think what they say, the economy, the amount of revenue it generates, the government is not so much ready or willing to outrightly go in and maybe ban it. And also it has, of course, political implications for the farmers. It has economic implications for the farmers, but it has also political ramification for the leadership. And what we are simply saying is that, and the coastal people are right, that they have the right to refuse to consume what affects them. And the farmers have the right to go and sell it elsewhere other than, you know, you cannot, I mean, a shopkeeper cannot force me to buy bread in their shop. It's me to choose either to buy that bread. Right now, there's been a proposal, it's still being debated, to increase bread. So if all of us as a community or a Kenyan community say we are not going to eat bread, no one can force us to eat bread. So the Embu and Meru region farmers, as I have said, let them create their own market within themselves to consume their own product. Let the coastal people, because they know it, they have seen its harm to society, let them be left alone. And also in terms of, you mentioned about the finance bill, it's still under debate. It's the budget that was read yesterday.
Yeah.
Of course, it's not a secret that the finance bill has a lot of proposals on the increase in taxes. It's going to affect Mwananchi. The government has to raise money, definitely. And one of the ways, or one of the major ways to raise money is through taxes. But then, as they are collecting taxes, we need to see the services. We do not see the services. All we are seeing is a lot of largesse and expenditure, high expenditure by government officials. When they're increasing taxes, they are freezing employment in government. But at the same time, they're employing useless CASs who add no value to this country, you know. And they're going to really spend a lot of money on them. We see the president traveling out of the country with a large entourage. We see ministers and MPs and MCAs going for benchmarking trips, and they're spending a lot of money, huge sums of money. So we are saying curb on the expenditure rather than increasing the taxes. It doesn't help to collect so much and squander it. It helps to prudently use the little that you have in a manner that will be more productive. You know, it doesn't really matter when you have 100,000 shillings and you don't spend it well, when the person who has 5,000 shillings can spend it more productively.
Okay.
Yes.
This is a topic that we should be emphasizing on most of the time so that you can see it working, the ban of muguka and mira. Let's move on to our next story. We can see that we are in the 10 days of Dhul Hijjah. And tomorrow, inshallah, it's going to be the day of Arafah. Maybe let's talk about the important things to do on the day of Arafah, inshallah.
Thank you very much. Tomorrow will be, of course, Yawmul Arafah, and we want to urge all of us as Muslims, of course, to really share that great moment with those people who will be performing their Hajj and standing there on Arafah and actually praying. And we are urged to, or encouraged to fast a lot. And therefore, people should wake up with their psalm tomorrow. Those ones who have not had the privilege of fasting these last few days, because we encourage to fast the days, the first 9 days. So we encourage that, of course, people fast tomorrow.
Okay.
And people, when they're fasting, they're also encouraged to really do a lot of istighfar, do a lot of du'as. So that goes without saying. So please, we ask everyone who can to not only fast, but do a lot of dua, especially for our brothers, suffering brothers in Palestine, in Kashmir, in India, all over, where Muslims are oppressed. Let's remember them. Let's, of course, also pray for those ones who are performing Hajj. Okay. As we did ask them to pray for us, let's pray for them. Let's do a lot of istighfar. Let's do a lot of charity, a lot of support, the children's homes, the orphans, the widows, the less endowed in society. And basically, let's engage in productive work. Let's engage in worship more than any other day that we have been.
Okay.
Yes.
Maybe let's talk about the day of Arafah. To those who, okay, there are those who've managed to go for Hajj.
Yes.
There are those who've managed to fast, will manage to fast. And what about, let's talk about specifically on the gender, the ladies' side. Yes. Maybe if they don't get to fast tomorrow due to some unavoidable circumstance, maybe what other things can they do?
As I said, it's not only fasting because it's sunnah, so it's not like if you don't fast, then you have to pay. No. And there are many other things one can do besides fasting. Reading Quran, bringing istighfar and making other du'as, and going out there to help the needy, doing charity work, giving sadaqah. So our sisters, our mothers, and any other person who is not in position to fast, they should do those other things. Okay. But even those ones who are fasting, they're still encouraged to partake in charity work, to read Quran, to make dua and all that. So it's not like you can do one and leave the other.
Yeah, it's true.
But if you can do all of them, well and good. If you can do one among those many, well and good.
Okay. Yes. The thawab of fasting on the day of Arafah, they say that you are forgiven your wrongdoings on 2 years after, in your coming 2 years, and the previous
period and the period ahead of you.
Is the thawab the same as giving back to the community, giving sadaqah, doing other good things?
Of course, definitely every other act of worship carries its own thawab. Okay. The imams are in better position to explain this, and I'm sure today being Juma, some of the khutbahs that are going to be shared or given will definitely touch on that. Okay. But what we are encouraged to do, as always, of course, we're supposed to live the best, and we're supposed to get the best from our Prophet Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, because it's the best of example to us. And therefore, whatever he did on Yawmul Arafah, whatever he did on Eid, we're supposed to do it. And therefore, let's all participate in increasing a lot of charity work, a lot of ibadah, so that we earn the reward that is not the normal reward of any other day. Okay. Yes.
So definitely after Yawmul Arafah, we have Eid al-Adha.
Yes.
And that is the second celebration that Muslims have.
Yes.
Let's talk about the tips of enlightening Eid al-Adha.
Well, of course, on Eid day, where people are supposed to wake up early, prepare themselves, and go for prayers early enough. Most of the time, the Eid al-Adha prayers are conducted a little bit earlier. Some do it as early as 6:30, 7 o'clock in the morning, all the way up to about 8:30, so that people have an opportunity to go out and now slaughter their animals or sacrifice, as is the tradition. And once they sacrifice, of course, they go back to their families, share the meat or whatever they have sacrificed amongst friends, neighbors, relatives, and the needy. So let's not forget that once we slaughter, there are people who are deserving. There are those who are needy. There are those ones who are our neighbors, be they Muslims or non-Muslims. There are those ones who are our friends and relatives, and our family too. And also, of course, we're encouraged we're discouraged from indulging into, wasteful practices. We are discouraged from doing other things other than the normal celebration that we're supposed to do. Like, of course, people now going into, we have said it, Mira or Muguka dance, Shisha, in the name of celebrating. Some going into clubs and doing other things in the name of celebrating. You're not supposed to celebrate Eid, especially our Eid, in that manner.
Okay.
Yes.
Two more things on this before we go to how our Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam used to celebrate his Eid. Sorry, we've come across this phrase, Eid ni ya watoto. What about adults?
We are all supposed to celebrate. Of course, the kids celebrate more because they have more spaces for fun. They're taken out, go swimming, go whatever games that are available within the neighborhoods. They bought nice things, clothing and all that. But we are all encouraged to celebrate Eid in the manner that we can actually afford it. If someone can buy for themselves and you habaya and you cancel, of course, people go extra, even they change furniture in their houses. Yeah, those are not so much necessary, but at least we need to look neat. We need to be in a celebratory mood. And to be in a celebratory mood, you will not be putting on tatters, clothes that are, So basically, people are encouraged to embrace that day by being happy, and therefore, if you can afford new clothes, why not? If you can afford to have a better meal on that day, why not? If you can afford to take your family out and go to the park, have a picnic out there, well and good. It's all encouraged.
Okay. On the last thing,
yes.
This is kind of new to me, but not that new. Advice is that take your Eid on the road, because most of the women especially are the ones who normally pray at home during even the Eid prayers. What's the benefit of praying your Eid on the road?
Of course, we're not just saying on the road, but in the open fields. Open fields. One, congregation prayers encourage community or that communal togetherness. If you pray at home, most likely you're not likely to get to know the other person. You're not likely to get to know the challenges that other people face. You might think, as they say, you might think you have problems until you hear the other person's problems. So that communal, the ummah of Islam, that communal aspect, the togetherness, can only be enhanced when people come together to do certain acts together. And congregational prayers just encourage that. So people coming together, the women coming together, especially on Eid Day, to celebrate or to observe Eid prayers with others is much more beneficial than just praying at home. These other prayers, of course, they're encouraged to pray at home because of course, the work that involves them, you know, with the children, with the families and all that.
Okay.
But Eid prayers, everyone is encouraged to pray in the congregation.
Before our time ends, I'd like us to tackle or look at how Prophet Muhammad ﷺ used to celebrate its Eid, because we are advised to follow the teachings and hadiths of the Prophet ﷺ. Maybe what are the things that he used to do during this special day?
It's in the Friday Bulletin. We encourage people to read, but we'll just mention one or two aspects. So that we also don't want people to say, oh, of course, we have had everything, we are not going to read the Friday Bulletin. We encourage people to get this Friday Bulletin and read it. However, of course, sacrifice is one of them. I mean, slaughter. Okay. Slaughtering an animal, for those ones who can afford it, is one of the deeds that Prophet Rasul Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam partook, and we are also encouraged to do that. And celebrating with family. So you do not go out there to do the slaughter, then as a man you go hanging out with the fellow men, and you don't come back with to your family until evening. Okay. No. And also what happens, what we have noted, is that during Eid, people forget that there is Dhuhr and there is Asr. Yeah. So people forget, you know, the obligatory things that are supposed to be done, especially the prayers, you know. So let's also focus on that, that as we celebrate our Eid, we have to remember that those things that are obligatory for us to do, we have to do them, especially the Salah, the Dhuhr, Asr. Those are normally the Salahs that are really forgotten by people when they're in a celebration mood. Okay. So basically everything is here regarding Moguka and Eid and Yawmul Arafah, you know. So we encourage people, of course, to get the Friday Bulletin and read for themselves.
Thank you so much, Mr. or Akhi Musa Mwale. Yeah. I remember you told me not to call you Sheikh.
Yes.
Anyway, thank you so much for joining us today here and taking us through the Friday Bulletin. Okay, to you, our viewer, I know there is a lot to discuss here on this Friday Bulletin, but I'll encourage you to make yourself or get yourself a copy of this Friday Bulletin today at the Jamia Mosque, and so that you can know what is going on around the Muslim community. I don't have much to add on, but I'd like to take this opportunity to wish you Eid Mubarak in advance. Until next Friday, inshallah, same time, same place. My name is Zamzam Ahmed. Wa assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.
Kuna faida gani twapata tukimjua Mtume sallallahu alayhi wasallam?
Nabii mwenye ushawishi mkubwa duniani.
Tukizikwa tukitiwa kaburini, tutaulizwa haya maswali matatu: man rabbuk, ma dinuk, man nabiyuk.
Sheikh Jamaluddin anakupa simulizi.
Huwezi kumpenda mtu usiyemjua
na kutambua sunna zake,
lakini ukimjua na ukimtambua Mtume Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, mapenzi yako yatazidi.
Ufahamu Rasulullah, familia na maswahaba wake. Tazama sira ya Mtume kila Jumatatu saa 1 jioni kwenye Horizon TV.
أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم يا أيها الذين آمنوا إذا نودي للصلاة من يوم الجمعة فاسعوا إلى ذكر الله وذروا البيع ذلكم خير لكم إن كنتم تعلمون.
Enyi mlioamini, munapoitwa kuhudhuria swala ya Ijumaa, fanyeni haraka kuikimbilia, muache biashara zenu, hilo ni bora ikiwa mwelewa.
Isikilizeni kwa umakinifu khutba ya Ijumaa ili uzidi kujenga imani yako na kupata faida nyingi ya siku hii.
Coming to you every Friday from Jamia Mosque, Nairobi.
Live on Horizon TV.
Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation. Horizon TV, kurunzi ya taifa. Horizon TV, the beacon for the nation.